Joining us now to speak about the importance of the conference is Chairperson of the Commission for Gender Equality, Advocate Nthabiseng Sepanya-Mogale. Very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. So, looking at the gender rights of citizens in South Africa on Human Rights Day and applying the theme, reflections on the Constitution, rule of law, accountability, social and economic justice. Is there anything for this gender to celebrate?
Good evening, Nthabiseng, and thanks for having us. Yeah, there are quite a few things that women in particular, if you look at men and women, actually both men and women, the different genders beyond men and women, can celebrate. We are a country that recognizes the different and variety of genders, which in itself is a progressive move to see to it that the Constitution is implemented.
I mean,
however, within...
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes,
I was going to say, just a few moments ago, one of my colleagues just gave us a report about the situation in the Northwest Province with regards to access to health services, particularly for hormone therapy for those who are transitioning in elective gender change. So you were saying that there is something to celebrate, but there aren't things that we can say are at that level. But should we still be talking about things like this in a country where it is enshrined in the Constitution?
Yes, we should. And we should at two levels. At the level that we must never forget the gains that have been made so that they are not lost in the process. But again, why we should be talking about it is because at all times we should be monitoring if it is at a level that we had actually anticipated, strengthened all the time, responsive to whatever the needs would be. So it is something that must at all times be at the center of the table, lest we take it for granted. And that is when decline sometimes occurs. So it should be something that we talk about. But considering what you were asking, it's almost like there's got to be a stage when it doesn't become an issue, when it becomes a non-issue. Yes, we've also got to go to that stage where your gender should not matter. Your gender should not be an impediment of you getting a job, of you getting services in government, of you feeling safe in your community. It should actually be something that we should not be worried about, but it's something that at all times we should be looking back and saying we cannot take these gains for granted. Let's work on strengthening them and keeping them. That is the only way we will actually realize that no, we have not got to that point yet.
Advocate Mogale,
that we want.
I know as a Gender Commission you have a plan on some of these areas that you believe are lacking, particularly when it comes to human rights and constitutionalism. Transforming and building an independent and resilient judiciary is one of them. I want you to talk a little bit more about this, but we as a country have been lauded for having an independent judiciary that is progressive. Aren't there other institutions of democracy that we should be focusing more on, particularly to prevent the denying of such rights, particularly the high levels of gender-based violence and femicide in this country?
Yes, there is one particular area. It's not necessarily an institution of democracy, but rather a vehicle towards achieving democracy, which is the media. Unfortunately, our media has actually been left behind in the sense that it is still headline driven. It is still juicy story kind of driven and chasing the story, wanting to break the news. They're the first ones to break the news. The content in the process has been seriously compromised. We are not getting anything that is useful to enhance our democracy, to continue to teach us about our democracy, to highlight where government is failing us. Because you must remember Section 7.2 of the Constitution says government must promote. It's not a may, it's a must promote. But how do you promote? You promote by highlighting where the gaps are, which could be done by the media, but also to actually promote by assuring and communicating with the people who voted you into power in terms of what you're doing. It should be a tool of accountability rather than, a tool of what is the juicy story, what headline, the opposition, who do they have? Okay, let's have another one, and, chasing those kinds of headlines.
So you're saying there's a lack of depth in the manner in which the media covers some of these issues. So what needs to transform, not only in the sector, because it in turn feeds into the greater architectures and informs the greater architecture of our democracy. So that, I'd imagine, if we're talking about the statutory bodies that also influence how government, but the various arms of the state could change, what needs to transform?
Your question is convoluted. Can you just ask me a simple question? Let me answer you.
Okay, so you're talking about how the media lacks depth. Am I correct?
Yes.
So I'm saying
yes.
What needs to reform, not only within the media, but the work that the media does seek also to inform, empower, and influence statutory bodies that in turn also influence government.
Yes. Oh no, for sure. In fact, I think that is an answer in itself. But when you look at some of the other areas, your judiciary, government departments, organizations such as the CGE that are there to enhance constitutional democracy, civil society organizations, all the work that is being done by all those organizations also has to be enhanced and to be of a particular quality rather than just work for the sake of it. It has got to, the impact thereof has got to at all times be related to what it was meant to do. For an example, when you look at some of the monies that are being put into the civil society sector to respond to GBV, we should not only be continuing to do that without saying, where else should we be putting this money? Or why is it that the impact is so limited? Maybe we are missing the point somewhere. Maybe we are funding something that is actually missing the point by itself. Where is society in all of this to enhance and respond and fertilize and strengthen the impact out of that funding and the support that it's getting? So we are not asking the critical questions in so many ways, all of us.